Thank you very much, Program Director. Ambassador Tutu Skweyiya and family, President of the ANC and the Republic of South Africa, former President Thabo Mbeki and Sandile, members of the Executive, Legislature and Judiciary, members of the Diplomatic Corps, leadership of the Alliance and other political parties, fellow mourners, good morning. Today we bid farewell to a great man who, having been called forth by history, stepped forward and dedicated his entire life to the service of the people. A self-effacing and fearless hero of the struggle, a diplomat par excellence, a relentless champion of human rights and social justice, and an epitome of ethical leadership, who was always conscious of the fact that public power should always be deployed in the advancement of public interest. I first heard of Dr. Zola Skweyiya at a meeting of the MK soldiers who lived in underground houses in the various townships of Lusaka en route to the front. The meeting was convened to address a situation occasioned by a tendency on the part of some comrades to use AK-47s as weapon of choice in solving their personal problems. The ANC viewed this as a very serious offense. Thus, the regional commander, Comrade Logolo, addressed us, and in making the point that those who indulged in those activities were cowards, not worthy to be in the ranks of the People's Army, told us about an exemplary bravery of an ANC lawyer called Zola Skweyiya, who put to flight armed thieves, not with an AK-47, but with a panga. Little did I know that I was later to be deployed to work in the Department of Legal and Constitutional Affairs of the ANC, the head of which was the same Dr. Zola Skweyiya. His temper and how he gave expression to it were legend in Lusaka. The first days were very tense for me, as my boss Harold spoke to me. The other members of the department tried to put me at ease. When I asked Africa and Sis Bridget Mabandla why the man never smiled nor spoke to me, they told me that I must not worry, as the apparent hostile appearance he put forth was a defense mechanism that he deployed to protect a very soft and a tender heart within himself. The next couple of weeks proved their profound characterization of Dr. Skweyiya's demeanor to be true, because when we started to work together closely in the office of the Officer of Justice, he lowered his shield of hostile appearance, and I began to be a beneficiary of the kindness and generosity of his heart, which to date has largely informed who I am and where I am. I was privileged to have Dr. Skweyiya not only as a boss and a friend, but also as a part of my extended family. His leadership style was the most empowering one that I've ever come across. Although he would not pat your back for having committed a mistake, he would, however, teach us that it is the faint-hearted pessimists who are scared to venture into life and therefore not make mistakes. His inclusive approach to leadership ensured that the work of the department, which was central in the development of the constitutional guidelines that were later to define what became the constitution of the country, now renowned as the best in the world, was a product of the collective efforts of all its members. This culture continued to hold sway within the department even when we returned back into the country from exile. The work of the Constitution Committee, of which Dr. Zola Skweyiya was a chairperson, bears testimony to his impeccable leadership quality. Upon his appointment as a Minister of Public Service and Administration, I again had the privilege of working closely with him as his special advisor in 1995, and later as a DDG in 1996. I found in him a leader and a comrade who still believed dearly in the noble objectives of the National Democratic Revolution and the urgent need of the resolution of the national and land questions. He was a man of unimpeachable integrity, with unquestionably but not unquestioning loyalty to the ANC. As such, he was extremely outspoken and yet principled. His sense of compassion for the downtrodden was intense and sincere. He was honest to a fault. Dr. Skweyiya's contribution to the liberation of our country, his sterling work in the development of our transformative constitution, his stoic attempts to change the culture of the public service to being people-centered and people-orientated, his leadership in the introduction of a comprehensive social security system to cater for the poorest will remain the hallmarks of his life, which will live beyond his biological life. A modest man he was, Dr. Skweyiya never carried these achievements like jewels in a crown of his glory, but bore them like black gravel under the skin of his soul. My fear, however, is that history can be unkind to those who have dedicated their lives in the selfless service of humanity. As much as Dr. Skweyiya was the product of the same history, a human ornament that decorated it, and a tool that shaped it, it may fail to accord him an appropriate place in its annals. His work may be attributed to the natural trajectory of events, with him being a faceless and nameless part of that course. In order to ensure that this towering giant of our struggle never fizzles out of the landscape of time, I'm glad that those who have worked with him have decided to chronicle the role played by Dr. Skweyiya in the transformation of the South African society, in constitution making and public service reform. Fare ye well, my comrade, my mentor, and my brother. May your beautiful soul rest in peace, content in the knowledge that your footprints remain indelible etched in the sands of time for the future generation to follow and emulate. To you, Sis Tutu, you have been a tower of strength to this gentle giant and fine sign of the soil. You have been there for Zola in the best and in the worst of times. For that, we thank you.
Thank you very much to our first two speakers.